Lizardmen versus Beastmen. Pretty quick battle. There's really just three main points I want to review in this video. For my Lizardmen, ripperdactyls are becoming one of my favorite units in the game, so I took the Colossadon Hunters, their Regiment of Renown, to bump them up instead of taking the standard ripperdactyls. And the idea for this army is to have a pretty aggressive army that's still somewhat balanced. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. So I have the ripperdactyls for speed and air superiority. I have two regiments of chameleon skinks for some ranged skirmishing. The standard stegadon with his great bow for some long range threat. And then Temple Guard, some Croxagore, the Unbreakable Regiment of Renown, cohort of Sotek, Red Crested Skinks, a bunch of tanky melee units basically, including my Croxagore Ancient, the General. The idea being just try and get into some big melee fights and then nuke those fights with my favorite wizard, the Venerable Lord Croak, since his spell, the Deliverance of Itza, doesn't damage friendly units and I can just throw it right onto a melee. The Beastmen army seems pretty versatile. We have a big line of Ungor chaff here, spears and bows. A couple Centaurs with their ranged weapons for skirmishing, and then his heavy melee, two Bestigors, one of which is Regiment of Renowned, two Minotaurs, one has great weapons, and then a Cygor and the Beast Lord on Chariot. I'll leave the end screen up for the exact army compositions at the end of the video. So I deployed way over there because I despise Cygors. Ever since I first encountered them in the campaign, I think they're an annoying artillery unit to fight against, but they deal so much damage with those big boulders and at such long range. So I figured I'd kind of try and deploy behind the forest over there and maybe work my way up this way to use the forest as cover. But he only has one Cygor, so not too bad. It was kind of funny how all the Vanguard units who can deploy forward were all right next to each other here, so I just flew them away, and then it baits out the Ungor Bowmen he sends against them, so they're going to get left behind by everybody else, and then I'll pounce the ripperdactyls on those Bowmen, and they'll take care of them quite well. That was a little funny. Well, they'll get the job done. And then my Stegadon, I brought him out to take shots with the Great Bow, does a lot of damage to these Centaur. But we can see the boulders coming in already, hitting my precious Temple Guard. So I kind of try and move them behind the forest, but it did not work. Maybe I should have put them closer. But in any case, we can see taking a lot of damage from those boulders already. So even though I'm doing good against the Centaurs and taking out the Ungors with the ripperdactyls, I decide to send everybody into melee because I don't want to just let them sit there and take boulders to the face. This Stegadon is... that's a bad matchup against these great weapon Minotaurs, but I'm going to send my one unit of Temple Guard is going to come in to help him out, so he'll be fine. And then the first really important point, I think, is these Minotaurs, because they do not get to fight, they just get kited by these chameleon skinks. I just put them in skirmish mode, so they just run away when the enemy gets too close, and I was really impressed with how quickly they're able to whittle down these Minotaurs, and they just end up breaking. That would have been much better just in the main melee fight. Second point is these Colossadon Hunters. I know they have anti-large, so after they were done dealing with the Ungor Bowmen, I send them in here, and they also have a special ability called Toad Rage. They probably, I don't know, eat some kind of hallucinogenic frog that sends them into rage, and they deal a lot more damage. So we can see they tear apart this Cygor. And I just love this because, like I said, I think Cygors are annoying to fight against, so the fact that they tore him apart like that so quick was fantastic. So I'm probably always going to take the Colossadon Hunters if I take Lizardmen. And then we can see these Minotaurs are starting to die now. They've taken a ton of damage, so they're going to break soon. And a lot of back and forth with the melee over here. The Temple Guard bailed out the Stegadon, but then he sends in this Bestigor herd, and they decimate my poor Croxagore, or my poor Temple Guard. They get butchered by these very scary Bestigor. They look very cool, even on my crappy graphics. But that's really the only thing he's got going for him at the moment. Because we get into these melee fights, and even if they're not perfect for me, that's fine for me. Like, these Croxagore are fighting these Regiment of Renown Bestigors, and which is a bad matchup for them normally, I believe, because the Bestigors have anti-large, but I threw down a Deliverance of Itza there, to turn the tide there. The Centaurs were kind of chilling, shooting at something for a while, so I threw a Deliverance of Itza down on them. You can see they're very, very damaged. So that's the third thing, is just nuking these melee fights. His one Minotaur unit got wasted, kited by the Chameleon Skinks. Ripperdactyls tore up that Cygor, and then I just nuke the melee fights to turn them in my favor. So he's sending in this Bestigor herd. This is really the last thing he's got going for him, but I'm going to throw down one more Deliverance of Itza from the mighty Lord Croak. And that's going to be about that. So like I said, even if the melee fights aren't quite in my favor, Croak is able to do so much damage with that Deliverance of Itza. Definitely got to get something to try and deal with a powerful spellcaster like that, if that's who you're fighting against.